In late 2014, one of the most important games of all time was released. It was a retro-style 2D platformer meant to invoke the feelings of classic 2D SNES games from the 90s. The game quickly gained traction and was being talked about and praised at nearly every turn. Its success wasn't unwarranted either, as it controlled great, had a nice little story, and was packed full of extra content, something even more praiseworthy seeing as the game was made by an indie development team, Yacht Club Games. This game was, of course, Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight was responsible not just for the resurgent popularity of pixel-style games, side-scrollers, or even platformers, but indie games as a whole. On its own, Shovel Knight was such a phenomenon that he's even managed to get his own assist trophy in the Super Smash Bros. Series. Its success was surely warranted, but its legacy is even greater due to its impact on indie games as a whole. At the time of its release, indie games weren't really shown a lot of love. That's not to say there weren't great indie games, Super Meat Boy in particular comes to mind, but in general, indie games were often not looked at too much. If you don't believe me, try to think of 10 well-known and great indie games prior to 2014, and then do the same for after 2014. If you're like me, you probably had a far easier time thinking of games after 2014. If you could think of 10 prior to 2014, then leave them in the comments because I'd really like to check them out. My point here is, and I hope you can see it clearer now, is that Shovel Knight was the beginning for a renaissance in indie games. For me especially, it sparked my interest in them and had me seeking them out more than I ever used to. Then one day, in late 2017, around Halloween in fact, I saw a game on sale on the Xbox store, and that game was Oxenfree. Now, I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you've at least heard of the game before, but just in case, let me give a quick rundown. The game was created by Night School Studio, an indie team formed in June of 2014. Right after being formed, the team got to work straight away on their first game, Oxenfree. Development for Oxenfree went smoothly throughout, as the game released with no real issues on January 15th, 2016. The game centers around a group of 5 teenagers who decide to go for a weekend party to a local attraction, Edwards Island. Our main protagonist, Alex, has a bit of a troubled history with the island, as just a year prior, her brother died in an accident on that very island. The goal of the trip is to just let loose a little and get Alex's new stepbrother and the character you'll spend most time accompanied by, Jonas, to know everybody just a little bit better. From there, a continued stream of horrific paranormal events begin to take place as the teens all try to piece together what's going on and find a way off the island as soon as possible. Now, that story sounds pretty simple, and that's because it is. The team at Night School purposely wrote the story to feel like a coming-of-age story as well as a teen drama. The game succeeds in this better than any actual coming-of-age or teen drama I've seen, and seeing as this was Night School's first game, it's even more impressive. I'm going to avoid talking about the deeper story as much as I can in this video, but I will say now, just a bit of a spoiler warning in case I do get into anything too deep. However, I will be avoiding anything major so that you can still go play and enjoy the game. That said, I now want to talk about some of the elements within the game that amplify and enhance not just the story, but the game as a whole. Oxenfree is a creepy game. This is, of course, by design, but what does that design really mean? What needed to be done to make this game feel creepy? Modern mainstream horror has had the problem of relying on simple jump scares and low lighting to deliver on a lot of its creepiness. While in truth, it takes a lot more work than you would initially think to make something feel truly off-putting or creepy. What's more, it's even more challenging to make a game feel scary at all when there isn't really a tangible threat. See, Oxenfree is what most would call a walking simulator. Meaning, the main gameplay loop consists of walking somewhere, exploring it, and talking to your fellow teenage friends. While this type of gameplay doesn't appeal to everyone, and I understand that perfectly, if you ever found yourself enjoying a Telltale game, Oxenfree is most similar in design to those.
I was able to kind of weasel my way into the video game industry. So I actually moved from LA to San Francisco to work at Telltale Games.
Unlike some of Telltale's games, however, you literally cannot die in Oxenfree. A lot of fear is immediately lost in a game when the risk is no longer present. This was the challenge Night School faced when making this game. And so, instead of relying on cheap thrills to keep the player on their toes, Night School implemented some of the best visual and auditory horror I've ever seen. So, let's start by taking a look at some of the visuals. Oxenfree's visual style is very distinct from other indie games. In the last handful of years, we've seen a serious resurgence in pixel-based games, and once again, this has a lot to do with Shovel Knight. I can't be the only one who at this point thinks that the pixel art style has started to feel a little samey or overdone, which is why Oxenfree's art is such a breath of fresh air. Since most of this game will consist of walking around Edward's Island, you'll end up looking at a lot of background elements through your playthrough. And given that the game feels a lot like a movie or storybook while you play, it would make sense that the visuals match that. Every single location from this game could be a painting. Each screen is crafted with such a distinct look that it really makes you feel like you're walking through a picture book. In the instances where character designs are shown front and center, and I'm referring to the 2D illustrations, not the 3D models, the storybook vibe shines through even further. They have a bit of a cartoony or childish look to them. In fact, a lot of this game reminds me of the art from the old Cartoon Network show Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, only a little bit darker.
Clarissa! Is there anything like... Can we...
Even with this calming picture book aesthetic, it's able to blend into the game's darker and far creepier tone very nicely. Relying almost entirely on the atmosphere to deliver fear is difficult, but Oxenfree doesn't simply count on cheap jump scares or loud noises to keep the player invested. Instead, the fear it instills in the player is slowly drip-fed to you while you're exploring the island. It's the little things, stuff like lighting, paranormal and creepy movements, vague hints of some kind of shadows following you. The moments that are in your face are never only there to serve as a cheap thrill, but will always advance the story. The shock value style of horror that infests films and games today just isn't present. There's a constant sense of unease and danger, but that tension is never really broken. It continues to build and build until the very end of the game. It's here where the player thinks that they can take a deep breath of relief until the game's actual ending reveals itself. The absolute best use of visual horror in this game come with the photographs you get throughout the game. While exploring the island and progressing the story, you'll go through key locations to progress. Oftentimes, clearing that area is commemorated with a photograph. Before things start to fully unwind, these photographs, combined with weird floating ghost triangles, are your only understanding of the current events. Human beings hate not knowing things on a primal level. Fear of the unknown is a basic survival trait nearly every person has, having been passed down from our more careful ancestors, allowing for us to thrive. Fear of the unknown is the underlying catalyst for other common fears, phobias, and just general distastes. The fear of the dark, for instance, has nothing to do with the color black after all, but instead the paranoia that comes with a lack of information. The uncanny valley, which is responsible for the fears of mannequins, animatronics, and more, has to do with the fact that while looking familiar, part of our brain can still sense something unknown and foreign, causing us to put our backs up. My point here is that by drip-feeding the story along with the horror elements, the game builds a sense of uneasiness and dread the entire time. And this feeling is only exemplified with the vague information through visuals. When all you have to go off of is this, it's gonna keep you on edge. Something dreadful lurking close behind you, something you can't fight, something you can't even see. All you can do is keep moving, get out your radio, and listen. The only tool you have at your disposal throughout your time in Oxenfree is a simple radio. Not exactly the best weapon for fighting spirits, and I can think of a few that would probably work a little bit better. However, you won't really be fighting the ghosts in this game so much as trying to understand them. The radio is used to close anomalous rifts created by the ghosts, as well as exorcising your possessed friends. The reason any of this works, from what I can recall, isn't exactly explained, but maybe that's something the sequel can do. That aside, the radio, and therefore audio in general, plays an enormous role in Oxenfree. The team at Night School did an amazing job of manipulating audio in just the right way to make things extra unsettling. When things start to get paranormal and messed up, there's a little audio cue that plays.
It's pretty nice. It can be pretty nice.
You used to come here a lot as a kid, right? To the island. I mean that's what Ren made it sound like.
Do you ever get deja vu? I feel like didn't we just walk through here?
It's almost like a little radio struggling to tune in. I've always perceived this as the spirits themselves trying to tune back into the realm of the living. When actually closing the anomalous rifts, the sound of what I can only assume are supposed to be extremely intense radio waves grow louder and louder. Every piece of audio in this game builds off the visuals wonderfully and play into the main gameplay gimmick of the radio very well. But even putting aside the audio effects, what builds the atmosphere even further is the music. Where to even begin? Talking about Oxenfree's music is hard, and that's actually a good thing. See, I normally struggle to talk about something I love in a meaningful and logical way, especially if it's music, because I normally just can't wrap my head around why I love it so much. So what I'll do is explain the pretense to a few pieces of music and let some of it play over its scene to maybe allow for a better understanding than I could ever hope to explain myself. First up is Epiphany Fields. At this point in the game, you have just arrived at Edwards Island, and so far nothing abnormal has happened, nor do you or the characters suspect anything. If this is your first playthrough anyway. It gives a sense of ease and wonderment, getting you ready for your adventure.
Smell that clean air, boys and girls. Boy and girl. This ain't city living.
Yeah, anybody need a smoke? I have a full pack.
No thanks. I mean, I literally just said the clean air thing, so...
Catbird Station is next up. This song comes up a few times, but notably, you'll hear it first when rescuing Ren from being controlled by the spirits. A track you'll be hearing a lot is one with a name I can't actually find, so I'll just call it the time loop music. This plays in multiple instances in the game, and has to be solved by winding various music boxes to the correct rotation per minute. Until that is done, however, the track is remarkably unsettling.
Hey, where'd Ren go? He was standing right there.
Ren, are you still here?
The last track I want to talk about is Tawhy Grove. There are actually two versions of this song, one that plays in the very beginning of the game, and one again at the very end. Both have very different implications, and so, to not ruin the game's incredible ending, I'll only play a bit from the first version.
Before we get there, I should probably mention that...
Oh, God.
Who's that?
There's this girl, Nona. She's just this girl, and I'm totally into her, and I want her to be into me, so just, just be cool, okay? No pouting or complaining or anything, all right?
I strongly suggest that if you want a deeper dive into the game's music, that you watch the actual team at Night School talk about it. I can fanboy as much as I want, but if you want a clear understanding, go check out their actual video.
After the game came out, it was like, oh, these guys on Reddit are trying to figure out how you got this effect. Like, what plugin did you use? And all I could reply was model number for the cassette deck from, like, 1978, because that's what it was.
There are a couple more things I want to briefly cover as well. First off, the voice talent. I didn't expect much going into the game, but was pleasantly surprised at how impressive the voice cast was. A lot of indie games don't even opt for voiceovers, instead either going for synthesized voices or just plain text, so hearing not only voice acting, but really good voice acting was a real treat. When they need to sound angry, they do.
Look, Jonas! It should be obvious to even the cheap seats that you're the only new weirdo who throws this whole social harmony thing we got going on out of whack. I mean, we all grew up with each other.
Guys, you know there's no television cameras here, right? Take the energy down a notch.
Alex, I am not putting my life in his hands. This whole thing has been a complete joke to this guy. I can't believe you're even kind of defending him.
and when the scene calls for a sad and melancholic vibe, they deliver.
Okay, I'm here. What's the story? I want the news. I want the Alex first edition. What's going on?
I've missed you, man. I've just missed you a lot, that's all.
Hey, come on. I've missed you too. And I know I've been hanging out with Princess, but it's a two-way thing. You can knock on my door. We live in the same house. We gotta bring back movie night and board game night. All the nights.
Yeah, sure.
Oxenfree is packed full of secrets to the point that it's necessary to play the game multiple times if you want to see everything. The story itself technically can't be finished until completing 2 playthroughs, and to do so, you need to make sure you perform the right actions. There are various areas in the game where you can tune into different frequencies for a variety of results, and most of them help unpack some of the more confusing story elements. Morse code is hidden all over the game, even in the music, and all have different meanings, helping to flesh out the world further. The mix between the game and the real world doesn't end there though, as an entire AR game was made to be played alongside Oxenfree using clues from within the game. There are even more things to uncover, like these disturbing hidden images that appear while talking to the spirits, which once again hint at the deeper story. I didn't want to discuss too many story elements as I feel this is a game with secrets and twists you'll want to uncover for yourself. Oxenfree's story left a lot up to speculation in the end, and a lot of mysteries were left unsolved. Now that Oxenfree II has been confirmed to be coming out this year, maybe some of those mysteries can finally be answered. I certainly look to finding out when I stream this game on my Twitch when it comes out. Then one day, in late 2017, around Halloween in fact, I saw a game on sale on the Xbox store, and that game was Oxenfree. Now, I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you've at least heard of the game before, but just in case, let me give a quick rundown. Wait a second. Haven't I done this before?